The Dolphins, very successful. I am Nic Rohloff. This is Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. Miami had a pretty busy weekend with some roster moves, and there was one in particular that was a great decision by this organization, and it is a very successful move that hopefully sets the standard going forward. What is that success for Miami? Well, it was late Sunday night, the extension that was given to defensive lineman Zach Sieler. I was fired up about this. I've been talking over the past 2 or 3 weeks how Miami should absolutely look to lock down Sieler for more years to create cap space for now, but as well as keep one of your best players happy and under contract for the foreseeable future. And Miami and Chris Grier absolutely did that. Adam Schefter broke the news on Sunday evening that it is a 3-year extension for Sieler worth up to $67.75 million with $44 million guaranteed. Sieler's agent is Drew Rosenhaus. No shock here. Rosenhaus is the super agent, I feel like, in the NFL, but he has a ton of clients in Miami. He had Jonnu Smith. He has Sieler. He has Minkah Fitzpatrick. He has Tyreek Hill. So there's a good working relationship between Grier and Rosenhaus, and he's able to get an extension done. And this is why you subscribe to the channel, because we have daily Dolphins videos, Miami Dolphins news. We react to it, break it down. We have rumors, weekly live shows on Tuesdays, and now that I can officially say it is game week with the first preseason game this upcoming Sunday, we are live for every Miami Dolphins game, and we might as well start off our sub-battle this week as well. We play the Chicago Bears in our first preseason game. Bears now one of the largest YouTube channels here at Chat Sports with over 120,000 subscribers. Subscribe today. Let's take them down in our weekly first preseason week sub-battle. But back to Zach Sieler, this was a move that needed to be done, and there's just so many positives coming out from this extension, and we'll go through 3 of the ones that just come to mind first. But I did want to share a little bit more details on the Zach Sieler extension. Josh Mosner, the person who gets to interview Drew Rosenhaus every single week for a weekly hit, had the agent on, and Drew said that the Dolphins defensive tackle Zach Sieler will make $34 million combined the next 2 seasons, and then the extension will set in. So part of the extension was probably giving Sieler a little bit more money in the next couple of years because he was one of the most underpaid defensive linemen in the entire National Football League. So that is very good for him, and I think it should create cap space for Miami as well, waiting for the full details. But Sieler will be under contract in the 305 through the 2029 season. He had 2 years left on his deal in 2025, 2026. The new contract goes 27, 28, 29. So he will be here for 5 seasons. He will be under contract through his age 34 year. He will become a free agent in that 2030 offseason when he is 35 years old. So ideally, Zach Sieler is spending the rest of his career with the Miami Dolphins. And there are 3 major reasons why this is a win for the Fins. And number 1 is that it makes your best player happy. And I do mean best player happy. He was absolutely the best player on your football team last season. He's been one of the most consistent, durable players that you have, playing 17 games in 3 of the last 4 years, but having back-to-back seasons with double-digit sacks. And I've talked about this in the past. It was very concerning to see Zack without Christian Wilkins in 2024 because Sieler broke out in 23 next to Wilkins. Well, Wilkins leaves in free agency. It's like, will Zack be as productive in 2024 without him? Well, yeah, he was just equally as good. I would argue better because if he ended up playing 2 more games and meeting that 17-game threshold, he probably puts up more sacks and more tackles. He already had the same amount of forced fumbles and TFLs. But I will say this as well. Like, this surprises me. When you look at the defensive lineman comparison in their career with the Miami Dolphins, you would think that Christian Wilkins had better numbers. That is actually not the case. Zach Sieler has played 85 games for Miami. Christian Wilkins, after being the first-round pick, played in 81. Wilkins sure has the advantage in tackles and pressures by 4, but Sieler has 9.5 more sacks, 6 more TFLs, 1 more forced fumble. Like, I think we have to start mentioning Zach Sieler in the same breath as some of these other defensive linemen that have played for Miami. Because if Zack continues the trajectory that he is on, I am not kidding when I say this, he could go down as one of the best, if not the best interior defensive lineman in Miami Dolphins history. Like, he's not going to meet the Jason Taylors or the top edge rushers that the Dolphins have had in their career, but on interior defensive linemen, the way that he's played so far, and he's going to be here for another 5 years, if he stays healthy and continues this good play that he's been on, he will absolutely go down as one of the best in history. And it's just what Miami needs to do, developing their own guys. And although he was not drafted by Miami, he was drafted by Baltimore in the 7th round, then released. Miami picked him up, and he's been here since 2019, 2020. So this is a player that has been in your system for a very long time. I mentioned it. He was your best player last season with Ramsey being inconsistent, Tua out for 6 games, Tyreek being up and down, Waddle missing time. There was no doubt about it. Zach Sieler was your best player on your defense. He was your best player on your team. He won team MVP for the Fins in the 2024 campaign. And I am very happy that the best player on this team, at least defensively, will be here for the next 5 seasons. What was your one-word reaction to the Zach Sieler extension? We broke it down yesterday in depth. I wanted to kind of recap why this was such a good move for Miami and speculate what could be coming next for the Fins as well. But what was your one word? My one word, very quickly, it was thrilled. I mean, it was. I was happy for him. I was happy for Miami. And now I'm just excited that the Fins could really have him locked in here for the foreseeable future and get to work. And the second reason why this is a win, by the way, for Miami is that it sets the standard for culture. And I think this is actually arguably the most important thing about this entire extension. Not the fact that you're keeping Zack around, but it sets your locker room up for success not only now, but for the future. We have seen Miami consistently make some bad decisions in their front office by not paying some of their own guys. Andrew Van Ginkel. We talked about Wilkins. It ultimately ended up being something Miami probably is glad they didn't do. But there's other players that you've let walk. Javon Holland, even though I was fine with that. The point is, this is what good teams do. And I briefly mentioned this on yesterday's video. You look around the NFL. The best teams in the NFL, what do they do at a very high rate? They draft well. They develop their talent well, and then they extend their best players because that not only sets precedent to your locker rooms, like, hey, if you come in, put in the work, and outperform expectations or live up to expectations, you will get paid. Just think about the Philadelphia Eagles. They draft, they develop, especially in the trenches, they extend. What do you see the Commanders doing? Draft, develop, extend. Like, you just see so many teams across the NFL that have consistent success. The Kansas City Chiefs is another one. These top-end teams, they draft well, they develop well, and then they extend their best players. And Ryan Fitzpatrick, the former Dolphins quarterback, chimed in on the matter yesterday too, saying this was well-deserved. Rewarding a guy like Zack, who is way outplayed his contract again, goes a long way in the locker room. I'm going to continue to go back to the point. Good teams in the NFL do what the Dolphins just did. They develop, they extend. So this is what you need to do to set a very good locker room, a very good culture. Miami's tried to swing big with trades in the past by trading for Tyreek, Jalen Ramsey, Chubb, and then extending them. Well, it hasn't worked out. The Dolphins still haven't won a playoff game. Draft, develop, extend. That's the mantra that needs to happen in Miami the next 3, 4, 5 years beyond if they want to get back to winning playoff games like they were before the 2000 years started. The last reason why this is a win, cap space was created. And this is one of the main reasons why I think Dolphins fans are excited for this extension, because now they have more cap space to potentially go out and sign another cornerback, which we'll talk a little bit more here in a second. Now, the details of the contract, like yearly guarantees and base salary on a yearly basis, they are unclear. We just know that guaranteed money is $44 million, and we know that Zack can make up to $67.75. But if you looked on over the cap, they would have told you that a Zach Sieler contract extension could create $5.8 million in cap space. So that's what I'm going to assume, unless I am told otherwise, that Miami did. They created $5.8 million more in cap space. And if you go on Spot Track, right now they have Miami at $14.5 million. Now that is before the Zach Sieler contract details come out, so it could be more, it could be less. This is also before the details of Mike Hilton and Jack Jones's contract have come out. So there is really no clear-cut number that is being reported that I could say is 1,000% accurate in terms of Dolphins cap space. All I know, this is what they have now. The Sieler extension could just make up for the 2 contracts that they gave to Hilton and Jack Jones. Either way, I would anticipate Miami at least having over double-digit millions in cap space, which means they do certainly have enough to go out and add another high-level player. And high-level, I mean just a starting-level player in NFL free agency. And coming up in just 1 second, we're going to speculate what that next move could actually be with the Miami Dolphins cap space. But before we get to that, I do want to make sure you get this awesome Dolphins deal. It's an awesome cutoff hoodie on sale for $33, $22 off. Usually $55, now $33. All you got to do is go to chatsports.com/MIA cutoff sale. That link is in the description and comments of today's video. Sizes are running out, so don't miss out right now. Grab yours. Link in the description comments once again. I feel like there has to be more moves coming for the Miami Dolphins because not only did Miami know they need to add more, and yes, they should have extended Zach Sieler regardless if they knew they needed to create cap space to make another move. You just anticipate Miami doing something else before we get to week 1 against the Colts in early September. If I'm going to project what the next move could be, I would probably think it's another cornerback. Now, I have been very much on record saying that the Dolphins need to add a tight end, but I do think corner is the most likely outcome here. With the tight end room, I just don't feel confident about this group. I would have absolutely tried to sign Noah Fant. Miami obviously didn't. He went to Cincinnati. Unclear if Miami offered him an equal level contract to the Bengals or offered him a contract overall. But I just simply don't expect Darren Waller to give you much. He is still on the PUP list. I don't want to rely on Pharaoh Brown and Julian Hill as your top 2 tight ends. Now, the issue with the tight ends in free agency is that they're not very good whatsoever. The former first-round pick Hayden Hurst has done absolutely nothing in his career. He is not a good football player. CJ Uzomah has done nothing outside of that 1 year in Cincinnati, which happened like 4 years ago. And Gerald Everett, the most accomplished tight end on this list, but he only had 8 catches last season and really didn't do much for the Chicago Bears, and the Bears didn't bring him back and obviously drafted Colson Loveland in the first round. There simply isn't a tight end in free agency that I would label as adding or worth adding to this roster, let's say. So I would absolutely prioritize the cornerback position if I'm going to add one. Because this room, although I think it's better than what it started at before training camp, I still don't believe it is adequate enough if Miami wants to try to make the playoffs this year. Second-year UDFA Storm Duck. I just don't know if I can trust him, although he has been pretty steady in camp. Jack Jones has a lot of talent, but there's so many question marks there. Mike Hilton is obviously replacing Kocur, who's out for the year. But, these corners equal a bottom 5 cornerback room in the National Football League. And there are 1 or 2 corners still in free agency, unlike the tight end position, that are worth adding to this roster and would immediately become starters and bolster this room in a pretty massive way. So before I talk about which one I want to sign, as we've done so often, should Miami sign another corner after the cap space was created by the Zach Sieler extension? Type Y for yes or type N for no. The 4 corners that I think is most likely for Miami to sign are these guys, and I put them in order 1, 2, 3, or 4 in order of the likelihood that they happen. I actually would rank them differently if it was my personal preference, but I always will put Rasul Douglas number 1 because Miami has offered him multiple contracts, including one 2 weeks ago that he has turned down. So they clearly like the idea of adding Rasul to this roster. I put Stephon Gilmore slightly ahead of Asante Samuel Jr. because he is simply healthy, and I think you could convince Gilmore to join Miami because he would be a starter right away. The former Depoy, who has solid numbers, actually had a better season last year than Rasul Douglas playing for the Minnesota Vikings. But Asante Samuel Jr., that number 3 guy, I want him the most. Obviously, the reason why he's a free agent is his medicals. Got neck and shoulder surgery in April, has never been medically cleared publicly. I am not sure if he has been in private, but it has not been reported that medicals have checked out. So it's obviously a major concern. But I am still going to pound my fist on the table saying that taking a flyer on Asante Samuel Jr. could bring in the biggest reward for this Dolphins football team. If you sign him and he's able to stay relatively healthy and play 13 plus games this year, that is your number one corner, a guy that's been a number one corner for the Chargers over the past 3 to 4 seasons. And when he's on the football field, he plays at a very high level. He's also 25 years old, so it's not like you're signing an older player that's going to be here for 1 year. You sign him, he performs well, you can extend him and have him on your group and on your roster for years to come, headlining your now youthful cornerback room. So I think it's a flyer, but it's a potential really successful move for Miami. That will do it for this episode of Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. Make sure you do subscribe because we're going to still bring you content every single day, weekly live shows. We want to take down Bears now in our weekly sub battle, but also subscribe for the watch party that is coming on Sunday. Hopefully I see you there.